I'm passionate about combating the tsunami of sexual lust that is destroying men, women, and marriages everywhere. But honestly, many of our strategies simply have not worked. I want to introduce you to truth that I know will work. I wrote To Kill a Lion as a result of a 15-year journey through which God showed me how people can get free from sexual lust at the root. The book answers the cry of men, I know it's wrong, but why can't I stop? The following 10-minute video is a collection of short clips that I extracted from the introductory sessions of my new Purity DVD seminar called Purity and Beyond. The seminar is divided into shorter sessions so you can have either a weekend conference or use it for a weekly men's group. The approach I take to sexual purity certainly isn't new to the world, but I found that it is new to most of the men and counselors who have read the book or have been to the seminar. So let's begin the video, and then I'll follow up with contact information.
We got married, and of course we had our ideals and everything. We decided we're going to take care of each other in every way there is, and so we get into this whole sex thing, and it was just awesome. I mean, we went at it. We just really got on this thing. We were having sex 3 or 4 times a day. It was just, it's a wonder we got anything else done. And of course, eventually, my wife gets pregnant, and we have a child, and then a little while later, you know, she gets pregnant again. We have another child, and so on and so forth. As this is going on, but she's pouring into me in every way that it's possible for a woman to pour into a man. She's given me herself, all the sex I want, anything that I want, all the time, telling me that I'm a wonderful guy, just pouring into me and pouring into me and pouring into me. And I remember the day that we were sitting on a couch together, talking about life and just kind of talking about what was going on in our lives, and she started crying. And she said, you know what? One of the most disappointing things to me is that I have poured into you in every way that it's possible for a woman to pour into a man, and you are just as empty as the day I started. Most of our desires in life are actually emotional, not physical, including sexual. And our sexual desire is actually an emotional desire, not a physical one. And we keep trying to fill the physical part, and it doesn't work. All we see is that there's an action. We have this action that we want. There's this action this orgasm that we want. That's all we see. Not understanding that the desire for that action, the desire for that orgasm actually comes from the emotional realm. To kill a lion, anyone? Because what ends up happening is you're going to be a slave to that desire because you can try and try and try and try and try to fill it. And when you get done, you're still going to be hungry. And that's what's happening to us emotionally. God intended for the whole sex thing to be 3 parts. He intended for it not only to be a connection between 2 bodies where there is an orgasm, but a connection between 2 souls, where you are emotionally connected to that woman, and the softness of her soul comes around yours and caresses you and makes you feel safe and loved. And not only that, but He intended for it to be a spiritual connection between 2 spirits, where you feel her spirit and she feels yours. Now, if that does not happen, if all you're getting is just the physical thing and you're not getting the other 2 levels, then what happens is your spirit and your soul are down there saying, send down another hot dog. And so you do it again. And if it's masturbation or if it's pornography or whatever it is, you do it one time, and what does your soul get out of it? Nothing. And so it says, send down another hot dog. And so you do it again, and what does your spirit get out of it? Nothing. And so it says, send down another hot dog, and you become an addict in a very short period of time. And you will never have, in quotes, victory over the physical part until you understand what your body and your soul and your spirit are actually seeking.
We would have an expert on a certain subject come in and teach us what they knew, so it would help us to improve our counseling. And that month they had someone come in and talk to all the counselors about sexual addiction. And as I listened to this man, he knew something that I didn't know.
The meeting was over. He was out there folding up his projector and whatever, and my office was right off the meeting room, and everyone was gone, and so I went out and I said, "Could I talk to you a little bit?" And he said, "Well, sure." So he came into my office, and I said, "Well, listen, I want to tell you. I said, I've heard something today that I'm not sure I've heard before." And I said, "For me," I said, "I counsel a lot of sexually addicted people," and I said, "I have 0% cure rate. I mean, really, nobody gets healed under my counseling." He said, "Well, tell me about your sexual life." Well, I told him, I said, "Well, no magazines, no masturbation, no mental images, no movies, no nothing, And at that point, I stepped back so he could fall prostrate and worship me. But he didn't. He said 2 things that changed my life. 2 things. The first thing he said was, "I perceive that you have a sexual problem." And number 2, he said, "and that you are a master suppressor." The name of the book, To Kill a Lion, comes because I felt always as if down inside of me there was a lion. That lion was the lion of lust. And it was down inside of me, and it was constantly, 24/7, every day, roaring, pawing to get out, scratching to get out of that cage. But I was disciplined enough, and I was committed enough to keep it in the cage. And so the reason I was so hard on this is because I believed that that's the way every man was. I believed that that's the way it was. We had to fight this battle each and every day. And so I just stuffed it into a cage. And then, even though my life had fallen apart in that when he said, do you have a sexual problem? I mean, imagine that. Somebody who smugly for decades had walked totally clean from that. And then I have this counselor looking at me and saying, "You have a sexual problem." But on the other hand, there was hope. Down inside, it was like the thought came to me, "Do you mean it doesn't have to be this way? Do you mean I can find some victory?" I just couldn't imagine not desiring sex. Because what happened, even though I lived right, the things that went through my mind, the temptations I had, I was constantly fighting against the temptations of the enemy. I discovered that the real drive to sexual addiction and dependency were the issues of the heart, like Steve said. They were the incredible issues of the heart that God wanted to get to. The father wounds, the mother wounds, the shame, the rejection, the open doors that came through sexual abuse, and on and on and on. That when we as men can get free of these things, I tell you, our sexual emotions come into alignment with God. And what I found out, that the more sexual victory I got, the more other things in my life were coming into alignment with God. Because the same roots that cause the drive of sexual impurity are the same roots that cause other things in your life. You know what? I still feel like I'm emptying the ocean with a bucket. But for the men who have been set free from coming to a different perspective and finding the roots in their heart, for them it was worth it. And it is worth it. And literally, I say to the glory of God, because it's not my book, it's the truth of God that is setting people free. There's great books out there. Every Man's Battle, I think, is a great book. At the Altar of Sexual Idolatry, good book. But I'm saying there's a lot of books that after you're done reading, they make you feel like your sexuality is your enemy. Because one of the things I discovered in my journey, that sex is for far more than hopping into a sack with a woman. Your sexuality drives your creativity. Your sexuality drives your ingenuity. Your sexuality drives your intimacy. But when you don't understand these things, when you're driven by wounds, when your heart's shut down, And you're funneling all the energy that God gave you to take risk and to be creative and to be electric in your personality to connect with other people. And you're taking it and you're spending it all in front of a computer or in some strip club.